I'm Marie Bigham. I'm the founder of Accept, coming to you from New Orleans, which is also the ancestral and territorial homes of the Homa and Chitimacha Native peoples. And so much of the work that we do with Accept, we are grateful to work in partnership and to learn from the Native and Indigenous people in our membership. So thank you all. And I want to always start with that. And joining me tonight is Ashley Bennett. Hi, Ashley.
Hello. I'm Ashley Bennett. I'm happy to be here today. We're giving everyone an opportunity to come on in the room. We want as many folks as are able to join us today so we can share some exciting info.
Thanks. So just so that y'all are like, so we're on Zoom right now, so we can record and do things like that. But we're also really live here on Facebook. And so we would love it if folks would put any questions or thoughts or reactions, what we're saying, into the comments, and we'll try to keep track of all of that. But this is very much the beginning of a conversation and beginning of opportunities we hope to continually engage with the community. But also want to say, like, I'm joined by Ashley because Ashley has been serving Accept in a leadership role for the last year. And we haven't really said anything publicly. And so I want to start by acknowledging formally and officially Ashley's incredibly important past leadership and continuing leadership as we're moving forward. So we're here together in partnership, and I'm honored, but really wanted to start by acknowledging and saying that. And before we talk about the future, which is the purpose of us being here tonight, is to talk about leadership things and just accepting what Accept kind of looks like, we hope, in the coming years. I want to talk a little bit about the past, a little bit of our history for folks who may or may not be familiar. So I started Accept as this Facebook group in the middle of the night on July 9th, 2016. And it was this way that I used for processing like real anger and feelings of futility around another shooting. And this was one that occurred at the El Centro Community College in Dallas. We weren't called Accept at first. I'm not that creative. That name was a gift of Bren Barnard. But at first we were known for about the first 48 hours as admission people sick of this shit, because that was the only way I could really wrap my head around it. When I started this thing, this Facebook group, I had truly no idea what this was going to become. There was no plan, there was no structure, there was no mission, there was no vision. Like I said, it was an act of just spontaneous anger. And I thought this would be a little corner of the internet where maybe 40 or 50 people and friends would get together when times were hard, but that's not what happened. And what Accept has grown into and become is nothing that I never ever could have imagined. So I thought we'd be 40 or 50 people, and today the group is 6,764 members, including another 2,000 folks who follow us on Twitter and people who engage with us in live, in person. And you look at our membership, our mailing list of names and supporters and people who've engaged with us, and it's close to 10,000. So it's a lot. And our membership engagement within the Facebook group, and engagement as Facebook describes it as folks who post and share and react and comment, who actively participate. Our membership engagement since the day we started has been in the high 80s to low 30%, and that's never wavered. And to give you an idea of how unusual that is, typical member engagement, active engagement for a Facebook group is high single digits, low double digits. Anything over 25% is considered a really big deal. So for us to be in the low, in the high 80s, low 90s is exceptional, and that's never changed. But running a Facebook group is really exciting, and it's challenging, and it's incredibly time consuming. And I'm incredibly grateful for the folks who immediately, as soon as we started, jumped in and volunteered to moderate and really step in. And that was like in the first hours. And it's Marcus Johnson and Stephen Golis and Heath Einstein, who was that very first group of folks that wanted to jump in and moderate this thing. And as this thing grew and grew and grew, people wanted to meet in real life. And Vern Granger was gracious enough to host Accept's first in-person meeting in September 2016. And in those early days, I relied on everybody who would listen and support. But most of all, I relied on Steve Frappier and Brandy Smith. And so in 2017, I asked them formally to join me in leading this thing. So then we had a small group of 3 of us, and we had our group of folks who were moderators. And then later in 2017, we asked a small group of really active members to form like a little advisory leadership guidance group for us. And so that really was kind of the structure that we put into place. And except, like I said, has grown in ways that no one could expect. It became really clear, though, that with some full-time attention, that we had some opportunities that Accept could grow into an endeavor that had real potential. And so we formalized Accept in 2019, February, as a nonprofit corporation. And Steve and Brandy and I were the founding board of Accept Incorporated. That's the nonprofit corporation, that's kind of the umbrella organization that the Facebook community falls into and other activities that we do now or hope to do in the future. And by structuring in that way, we were able to partner with the Rise Center for Hack the Gates and to receive our first grant from the Joyce Foundation really fast. Again, this stuff is moving so fast. 2019, I left my job as a college counselor to focus on formalizing and launching this thing. In the fall of 2019, we asked Ashley Bennett to join that group of us. And we have so many plans and lots of big ideas and exciting things for 2020. And as we know, 2020 happened. Everything shifted. Brandy resigned and our leadership teams had to shift along with it too. Opportunities disappeared with the pandemic. And with that, our path and our vision for financial stability disappeared too. That lack of formal structure, where we didn't really have clearly defined roles, that became less of something that was like a quirky Accept thing and our way to flatten the hierarchy, and it became much more of a hindrance. But I think the most important thing that happened for us in 2020, is that Accept members very appropriately held me and other leaders accountable for how the culture of the group had shifted and the lack of transparency in how we were leading things. And that was in a really incredibly important and clarifying moment for us and for me personally. I'm incredibly grateful, eternally grateful to Tamara Seiler and the committee that she pulled together for their hard work as they gathered feedback and ideas about the challenges and opportunities for our community. But really, it became clear that we needed to really think about how this whole thing fit together and put some shape to it. So Ashley and I have been working with Accept Inc.'s board, which at the moment is Heath Einstein, Steve Frappier, Tammy Garnes, and Scott Intagliata, with me serving in a non-voting position. And we've been working with them to move forward. And so to that end, I want to turn this over to Ashley, who's going to talk about how we're stepping this forward.
Thanks, Marie. Hey, friends. So I will be talking about the 3 silos that we will move forward with. And at the end of my little spiel, we would love it if folks would, as Marie mentioned earlier, chat in any questions you have. We are happy to hang out as long as we need to make sure we get your questions addressed. So the 3 leadership silos in Accept are the board, community, and advocacy and partnership. So community is led by me, and it will focus on the engagement and management of the Facebook community, which is, as Marie mentioned earlier, a beast. We love it, but it's very time consuming. And so we definitely want to dedicate the time and the resources that we should dedicate to it to make it more successful. And advocacy and partnerships led by Marie will focus on continuing the research to practice partnerships, developing an advocacy agenda and priorities, and working in partnership with mission-aligned college access advocates. The board is top-level leadership, and so they are the group that's responsible for developing and implementing plans to ensure our future and our sustainability. And community and advocacy report to the board. Recently, Marie and I underwent Facebook's rigorous training program. I swear, y'all, it was harder than the ACT. It was crazy pants, but we went through their training program. And so we're both now community managers, certified community managers.
I used 2 hours for that test. I have never, ever used all of my time. Yeah, sorry, agreed.
No, like they provided the study materials. I studied all day, and then I took all of the time allotted to take the exam. It's a whole thing. So because we are certified community managers, this means we're part of a community of folks who lead thriving Facebook groups. And we have access to copious amounts of training materials and resources to give you what you deserve as members. For example, there is a Facebook group for certified community managers, and we learn from them. We'll have an opportunity to collaborate with those folks and see some of the best practices out there and apply it to our group. And then also, with community being my responsibility, I'm incredibly eager to grow with you and for you. As Marie mentioned, we have been challenged by members, and we deserved it, right? Because we do owe you our dedication and our time and commitment. And so that means we have to level up. The great thing about the Facebook community manager designation is they sought us out because of the work that Accept has done. And so this just speaks to our group and our impact. And so we're really grateful for partnership with Facebook, and we hope to continue to grow in that area. And so guys, since this is a new way of looking at Accept, Marie and I will each convene a small working group of folks to help us. As we mentioned before, it's a monster we love, but we need help making sure our community is represented, that you are represented in the process. And so we want to look at what kind of leadership and structure needs to exist, who serves in leadership, how they're chosen, for how long, all of those things. And as Marie mentioned earlier, we do intend to be different. We do intend to disrupt, but we also want to be fully functional, and we want to make sure the resources we are providing are well thought out and structured in a way that will make sense for our group. In addition, we want to make sure everything we do is in a racially just way. So that requires partnership between not only Marie and I, but those of you who are willing to serve alongside us in this process. So each small working group will make a proposal to the board, and will begin implementation with their approval. We will give proposals to the board by December 21st for their approval, and then we'll make an announcement to Accept after board approval no later than January 15th. So that's the nuts and the bolts of how we're moving forward as a community. And as I mentioned earlier, we're keeping our eyes on the comment section. If you have any questions, we are happy to answer them. So I will stop talking to give folks time to enter questions in the chat. Anything else from you, Marie?
Well, thank you very much for all of that. And also want to thank the members who have given us so much really valuable feedback. And just as long as we've been around, but really especially in kind of this phase, we've been thinking about moving forward and what is best. How do we grow in these different ways, but how do we stay mission aligned? How do we maintain our core community and expand our reach? Like these are just hard things to wrestle with. And so I just want to thank so many of the members who have been very generous, either in proactively sharing their thoughts or being generous with their time. And I hope conversations like this become really commonplace and typical, and something that you can expect from us, as one member suggested. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say, but just, thanks to so many people. Thanks to 6,800 people who believe in us here. And yeah.
And I will chat in our Accept email addresses, because if you're like me, you might be a slow processor and you need some time to think through things before asking any questions. I'll share our email addresses, and then when we get done this evening, I will post our bios as well, because we are not vain enough to assume that 6,500 people know who we are and what we're about. So we want to share that with you guys as well. Hey, Nikki. Nikki says, what are some of the other things we're excited about with these changes? I'll just say I'm excited to have structure. I can be very type A in the way I think and work. And so it will be really helpful for me personally to have the structure. And then I think for the larger group, for everyone to be clear, just to be clear about the leadership, our capacity, what we're doing and what we hope to do. And with a group of our size, it's very difficult to wrangle if we don't have some very clearly defined roles. And so I'm just excited to see us move forward with that structure and with the possibilities ahead, because we're going to have the right people in the right places to do the right work.
Totally. So stoked about all of that. And I'm really excited about um, living this dream of always saying there are so many brilliant ideas and so many brilliant people within the Facebook community. How do we take those beyond that space, beyond our closed community, outside of our chamber, and go further with that? How do we connect great researchers? How do we connect policy people? How do we connect folks outside of our immediate space so that we can do something to really, I don't want to say fix this process, but rebuild it, make it racially just, make it equity centered. And I'm excited about the being able to have the time and possibilities to really hone in on those things and to work with members who are really interested and engaged in those areas as well. Because for me, one of the challenges of not having the structure, even though that was always kind of my thing, is not being able then to hand things off, not being able to say, oh, someone else could do this or someone else could do that, or who can I engage in a way that's productive. So I'm excited about all of it. Thank you for the question.
I have just posted Marie's bio. It is fantastic. Y'all check it out. It was a different hair situation going on then, but it is who she is. I'm about to share mine as well. Any other questions as we hang out here?
I saw Myra's great question. Hi, Myra. Myra's question about opportunities to gather virtually, that, you know, we're not together. What can we do? I am incredibly proud of the content that we've been able to produce in the last, I don't know how many months are we on now? 6 months? I don't know. Who knows what time it is anymore? But 45 different webinars, many of them led and planned by Ashley. But the engagement that we've had with those and continue to have on the YouTube channel is so cool. I think we were so focused on producing this content that now that next step is, okay, what would the community like? And so as we move forward with this new structure, Myra, I think that question is, you know, to Ashley and the team that they put together, and perhaps you're a part of it that way, to say, cool, how do we do community differently now since we're not together? So I think your question is a really fantastic one. And part of what's exciting about this new structure idea that we can put into place is now we'll have places where great ideas can go and get put into implementation, as opposed to, wow, that's cool, you should do that, or who should do that. Like, we'll have the ability to do that well. So agreed, we need to start gathering together again more. Ashley, what do you think?
Absolutely. One of the things Marie and I spent some time talking about in a recent conversation was just that. How can we make sure we still stay connected to each other? How can we make sure we're hearing from the membership? And so we do not have an answer necessarily today, but just know it's happening. We will definitely, as we plan, make sure we gather at least quarterly. And Marie and I spent some time talking about, you know, how often should we meet, because everyone's pulled in so many different directions. Zoom fatigue is real. I know at the end of the day, I'm done and don't want to do much else, but I also look forward to talking to y'all. So we definitely want to spend some time doing that soon. There are a couple other questions. Let's see, Marissa here says, how can we as the collective help support the efforts of the leadership team? I'll defer to Marie on that one.
Thanks, Marissa. I appreciate that. Reminding us that, you know, you can help, that you should jump in, like those things, because I think so often we get stuck in that silo of we need to provide. Again, I think the whole idea of this new structure is very much going to create those pathways in a much cleaner way, how you get involved, how things can be supportive. I think, honestly, and I know I ask for grace a lot in this group, but I think how can be supportive, like be patient with us as we figure this out. Be a part of this as we collectively figure this out, right? Like, we all talk about not sitting on silent, but, like, you know, we're all responsible for some part of this. And so help us by voicing opinions, help us by sharing your expertise. The last year and a half for me, as I've been working on this really full time, has been a huge lesson in what I don't know, and an equally large lesson in reaching out and asking people for help. And so as you see us kind of putting things together, as you share your ideas, as you engage, like share with us that expertise too that you have, or resources that could help us as we figure this out. But we'll always reach out and ask too. Thanks, Marissa.
And Nikki, appreciated when we discussed the anti-racist lens. Can we talk more about that? Mostly she just likes when we talk about it. The only thing I'll say before deferring to Marie is that we recognize the need for professional development on our end because we're never done learning about anti-racist work. And a couple of things. So we've discussed professional development specifically for white membership because we heard you guys. Folks. We heard that there could be an overwhelming amount of whiteness in the space, and that's not what the group is designed for, right? So we want to definitely check that, and we want to make sure we are addressing it in a way that's appropriate and, again, centering anti-racism. And then in addition to that, the affinity groups. One thing I haven't discussed with Marie that I would like us to think through is how we can pull leaders from those affinity spaces to, of course, not share things that are sacred to the space, but share information that we need to know about that particular group of members because we want to make sure we're addressing all concerns and that folks are heard.
For me, this, like I said, 2020 has been clarifying for everyone. It really, a lot of the conversations, especially conversations and accept, and especially the criticism and accept, it was entirely fair, caused me to really step back and think about my own journey, my own identity, and my journey within that. And some of the things I came to realize is that I personally needed different ways to process and think about those things. And so when I think about the anti-racist lens that we want to apply to all of this, I want to make sure too that we create ways for people to explore that in a number of ways, right? That we all have complicated stories and journeys with this that need to be addressed. I don't want to say sensitively, but in ways that meet us all where we are, and just acknowledging that we're all in different places. For me, as I think about that anti-racist lens with advocacy, with policy, with research, with those partnerships, like what's really important for me, and again, where our members are so critical, is a constant reminder of what is mission critical. Being asked to join an advocacy with another organization is kind of nice, but if it's not specific to our mission, should we be doing that? What are the ways to check that? What are the lenses that we can set up to constantly check ourselves to make sure that our actions, everything that we're doing in how we approach all this work is constantly through an anti-racist lens. And we just want to be extremely thoughtful and careful and approach it with humility as well. But yeah. Thanks, Nikki.
Marie, I want to make sure I'm not overlooking anything. I don't see any additional questions.
Neither did I. That's cool. Because this video will stay up. We'll pin it to the top. We'll continue to share thoughts and ideas. Like I said, this is just the beginning of the conversation. To say this is December 2nd. I don't know. Time is flat. We're gonna form these small groups, but you all as a community will hear back from us very soon. We are, one of the things that has been appropriately pointed out was accountability and sticking with things. And yeah, we're gonna start doing things like giving you dates and following up, and we'll ask for grace when we need to, and otherwise we'll be accountable. But this is the start of this conversation. And that means we're all able to form and mold this too. And so I was grateful to everybody who's jumped into this from day one or an hour ago. Thank you. Thank you.
And I don't know if we said it earlier, forgive me if I'm repeating myself, but in addition to grace, we also believe that the structure will lend itself to more accountability And also, it will communicate very clearly what you can expect from us. One of the things we talked about with managing a group of this size is the comments and the conversations don't end, which is fantastic. But if you need an admin to step in, we aren't always available and all of those things. So we're going to come up with a very clearly defined structure once we get our group of folks who want to work with us together. And then we'll be able to communicate with the membership at large when you can expect admins to be on duty, who you can reach out to for XYZ. And I think it'll be better for you because then you'll know exactly who does what and when. I do have a shameless plug here. We have a fundraiser going on right now. And so if you haven't checked it out yet, it is in the announcements. We are selling Accept t-shirts. We have partnered with a Black-owned business, Culture Fit, and 50% of our proceeds will be donated to Movement for Black Lives. And it's an umbrella organization of sorts, and it serves various organizations in the country that support Black folks, no matter their gender identity, no matter their expression. It just supports uplifting and providing equitable resources for Black folks in this country. So if you haven't checked it out yet, you can go in the announcements and check out some of the t-shirts. And of course, you can always reach out to us with any questions about that.
And Matt DeGrief.
Oh, quick shout out. I'm so sorry, Marie, but quick shout out to Brandon Mack, because he was a huge partner with me on that. And I just wanted to give him his props while I was on the mic.
Well, and if you want to see what the t-shirts look like, Matt DeGrief posted a picture of himself with his shirts. Mine haven't arrived yet because I didn't remember to order them until a couple days ago, but they look fantastic. And actually a couple more questions have popped up. Tamara, the question about a recap. The video is going to stay up, so after we finish, you could rewatch it, but I'll also post like a little summary in here as well. And we'll be better about posting updates like this. And Rhodey's question was, we still see a role of DSI in the direct support initiative. And I personally very much feel that. And to me, that's something that falls under the under my silo of advocacy and partnerships. And I think as we've talked about, Rhodey, stepping back and looking at the process of that, how do we decide what rises to that occasion? What are the standards? And really deciding the goals and efficacy. And now that we have several of these under our belt and folks who have been on all kinds of receiving, it's like, I think we can really dig into it and re-examine it, but I absolutely see a role for it. It's something that we've been doing for a while, and I think it's really important. And I want to thank Rhodey for taking the charge with that and really leading that. It can be a really tough and arduous and long process of putting together those advocacy pieces, and without a lot of thanks, and sometimes with some criticism from the recipients. So Rhodey, thank you for the question, and thank you for your work with that.
Tamara said, did we talk about where we were with the ground rules and group norms that have been worked on with the committee? Tamara, Marie did briefly discuss it earlier, but we didn't get into the nuts and bolts of everything.
But please know, like that work that you all did to me is, not only changed my mind and attitude about a lot of things, I think is very much foundational to the work stepping forward. And certainly you'll hear more from us about that.
I think that will do it. Marie, we appreciate your affirmation and support as well.
Thank you.
Anything else, Marie?
Not for me. I'm going to think about dinner finally, but I'm going to leave this video here. I'll post a little summary, just notes. We'll ask y'all to keep posting, your thoughts, your questions as we move this forward. Please give us your thoughts and feedback. And when the time comes really soon and we start asking for people to volunteer to be a part of all of this, like, please engage, jump in. It's really rewarding. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm good too. I really appreciate those of you who were able to jump on. And like Marie mentioned, the video will be here. We're always available should you have any questions or feedback. and we will talk to you soon.
Bye. See you later.
Bye, y'all.